Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Reinvent Yourself with Ray Ray. Of course, I'm Ray Ray, and today's video is emotional mastery. Now, of course, you guys on my community poll did choose this topic, and I think it's a really fitting topic indeed, in relation to the way society is today. Everybody feels this to some degree, but even more so men. Men, we're shamed. We feel ashamed, and we've been conditioned to believe that it's not manly, it's not masculine to feel any sort of emotion, to feel emotional pain, to feel frustrated, to feel angry, to feel anxious, etc. In a sense, I can see that society is going from one extreme to another. You've got a lot of people saying that, men should become more feminine and more, demasculized in the sense of, they should become, more feeling, more emotional, etc. But then you've got people like Andrew Tate, who, on most topics, I don't mind. I think Andrew Tate's doing a good job, to some degree. But at the same time, he's saying that men shouldn't feel any sort of emotion. He's saying things like, it's not masculine. It's not being a real man if you're letting your emotions control you. And yes, if you're Andrew Tate and if you're in that state, yeah, and I know that rhymes. If you're Andrew Tate and you're in that state and you've got a good, strong mindset like he has, then yeah, that's true. But it's not true for most people. And as a teacher and somebody who's got a big influence, you've got to be able to meet people where they are. Going from one extreme to another never works. It's about being balanced. It's about having that balance, okay? Yes, men have to be strong, but they must be willing to be weak before they can be strong. And what do I mean by that? What does it mean to be a strong man in today's society? What does that even mean? Does it mean to have big muscles? Does it mean to have, loads of testosterone flowing through your body? Does it mean to, drive a fucking Bugatti or whatever, smoke cigars all day? Or does it mean to, be able to punch people up, be a boxer or whatever? Not necessarily. To me, being a man ultimately boils down to taking responsibility for how you think, feel, and behave on a daily basis. Accountability is key. And one aspect of accountability and one aspect of taking responsibility is to manage your emotional and mental state on a daily basis. And unfortunately, in today's society, men are taught that they don't need to do that. They can just bottle it up, or they can bottle it all up. They can just, they can drink, they can take drugs, and they can just, really escape themselves. And that's where, unfortunately, a lot of men are taking their own life nowadays because of that. They're too afraid to feel. And this is something that needs to change. Here in the UK, the waiting list for mental health help, of the government is like a couple of years now. There are more and more people coming to, mental health therapists, etc. And the waiting list is just overwhelming. There's too much demand nowadays because of the demands of our society. And I do believe, even though I may sound like a bit of a hypocrite because I'm using it right now, but I do believe social media is to blame in some ways. People look on Instagram and they see these, or Instagram models or other people, seemingly who have a perfect life, even though that's just a facade. The image that they put online hardly ever reflects their real life. However, some people who are really depressed are looking at that thinking, I wish I had that life. Why don't I have that life, etc. And that's really creating even more sadness, anxiety, pain, etc. in them. And it's really sad, but there is just so much of a limitation on the help people can receive nowadays. And there are a ton of mental health books and self-help books out there. I've even wrote one, but for most people, just reading a book isn't going to solve the problem, unfortunately. I personally had to learn through experience. Okay. I'll tell you a little bit of my backstory. So basically, I was diagnosed with severe panic disorder and hypochondria. Okay. And basically, my body believed all the time that I was going to die. And I did go to therapy for like 6 weeks. I went to CBT. I had to wait like, I don't know, 8 months or something just to get to see the person. But anyway, my body will constantly tell me, that I was going to die. It would just automatically go into panic mode, and I didn't know why. There was just a lot of fear inside me. And until I learned how to accept those emotions and to really be comfortable with being uncomfortable, things began to change for me, fortunately. But obviously, not everybody has that help. But even the therapist told me that I should be doing what he's doing. The therapist didn't really say anything that I didn't already know. And one downside to going to therapy, in many cases, unfortunately, is that the therapist themselves hasn't really been through what you're going through. So, they can't really relate to you deeply in terms of, what you're going through, how you're feeling it, etc. I asked my therapist if he'd ever suffered with anxiety. He said no. So why was I prescribed somebody who didn't even understand what I was going through? And that's another pitfall. That's another thing. This whole situation is extremely complex. And it's like a labyrinth. How do we fix this? How do we sort this out? More and more people, not just men, women, or transgender people, people all over the world are suffering at the moment with all sorts of mental and emotional problems. What really is the answer? How can we solve this problem? We need to really ask ourselves as a society, as a collective consciousness, what can we do to provide people with more emotional support, with more emotional intelligence? I believe that it can start actually in school. Have you noticed that the schooling system, which I believe is completely flawed, okay? The schooling system nowadays really only teaches you how to be functional in the outer world, okay? So it teaches you how to, be a good employee, don't make mistakes, get a job, and basically it's setting you up to work for somebody else. Now, for some people, that may benefit them, but the school system is teaching people how to be functional in the external world while being dysfunctional in your internal world. And there's the imbalance there. It all starts from when we're children. Okay. So basically, if children were taught from a young age how to express their emotionality, how to feel, how to meditate, how to become more mindful, from a very young age, we'd see a lot less problems. Is there any reason why addiction is soaring on all levels? Because people are so overwhelmed, overburdened by the stresses of modern day living that they have to resort to alcohol or drugs or painkillers just to numb themselves from, the emotional distress that they feel on a daily basis. We need to sort this out, and it starts from childhood. We need to get the schools into teaching people how to manage their inner reality, how to manage their thoughts, how to manage their feelings, how to manage their emotional state. Because then if you're bringing up people in school who aren't just intellectually intelligent, you know but are also emotionally intelligent, then automatically you're going to see a more cohesive and coherent society unfold. It'll just happen naturally. But that's not what's happening. That's not how I was raised. The schools that I went to didn't teach me anything about emotional health, anything about emotional well-being whatsoever. They just taught me where fucking Jamaica is on the world map, how many wives Henry VIII had, all things that are pretty useless to me, not even relevant to what I do today. All of this stuff that I've learned about emotional mastery and really, learn how to just accept and flow with those emotions and to integrate them has come via my own experiences. That's the only thing that's taught me, not school, and that has to change because not everybody. I'm not saying this with any egotism at all, okay, but not everybody is me, and I'm not saying I'm the greatest emotional teacher or whatever. I'm far from that. But I understand there's a lot of people who suffer because they don't really have the awareness that I have at this present time. And yes, there were times when I was super unconscious as well. So there's no judgment there in what I'm saying. It's just the reality of things. Most people are super oblivious to what's going on inside of themselves, that they don't even realize why they're triggered. They don't realize why they are, angry, sad, anxious, depressed, or whatever. This has to change. And if we really just targeted this from a young age, we would actually save so many more lives. We would save so many more lives and create a better society for everybody. Now, what about the adults today? Not just the children, the adults today also need help. They need support. And I think it's really important to find somebody, just a friend, who you can rely on, who you can just call. Whenever you're feeling sad, whenever you're feeling depressed, just call them your emotional buddy or whatever. Just find somebody who you can link with, you can connect with, and you have just got each other's backs no matter what. Vice versa, either way. If you're feeling like shit, you'll call them. If they're feeling like shit, they'll call you, and you'll just be there for one another. Because the government's, the health system is letting people down. The schooling system's letting people down. Social media is letting people down. People are being let down on every level. And unfortunately, and this is just the sad, hard truth of the matter, we need to learn how to cope for ourselves in many ways, because we can't rely on people who don't even want us to be mentally and emotionally stable, because a lot of these organizations and social media and Netflix and Amazon Prime, they benefit and profit off your anxiety. A lot of the time people go on Netflix, or when they binge watch fucking 14 episodes of whatever show that they love. They're doing that because they're anxious. They're doing that to escape reality. And a little bit of escapism is fine, don't get me wrong. But, if it becomes an everyday occurrence, then you've got a problem. And there are many people who are profiting from your problems. So we have to, this is really what it means to escape the matrix. It really means to escape the mental and emotional conditioning that has been inflicted upon you from a young age. And the reason why it is not being targeted while people are in school, while people are young, is because people are more impressionable when they're at a very young age. And unfortunately, we've been targeted by people who simply want to profit from our sadness, from our anxiety, from our depression. So, what are emotions? Really, the clue is in the word emotion. I mean, emotion is just energy in motion. Emotions are energy, right? But if you are in resistance to any emotion you feel, then what you're doing, you're obstructing the flow of energy within you, and that's what creates energetic blockages in your chakras, etc. Okay, so basically, whenever you feel any sort of emotion, okay, whether it's positive emotion or negative emotion, usually it is because you've been triggered by an unconscious perception of the present moments, right? So, for example, if you're walking down the street and you're afraid of dogs because a dog bit you when you were younger, and it's 25 years later, you're walking down the street and a guy's walking towards you with a dog on a leash, and you automatically get butterflies in your stomach and just start to feel anxious, even though you don't really know why. It's because of that emotional memory within you. It's because of that unconscious perception that you have as a result of that experience you had in the past. And a lot of the emotions we feel are just recycled emotions from our past experiences. Whenever we have a really traumatic experience, the brain takes a snapshot, okay, and it basically records that emotion, how you felt at that moment, to prevent you from possibly re experiencing that emotion again. So, for example, if you've got a phobia of walking up the stairs because it makes your heart beat a little faster, for example, upon the first time of doing that, the brain takes that snapshot, and then whenever you go to walk up the stairs again, what's going to happen? You're going to feel that same emotion because the brain wants to keep you safe. It is designed to keep you safe. There are so many survival centers and instincts built within the brain just to keep you safe. And that's the reptilian brain within us all. And in some ways, it saves us, it keeps us alive. But you've got to know how to use it consciously and also know how to shut it off when required. Because a lot of the time, the ego just freaks out for no reason. It freaks out because it believes that, there's danger around the corner each and every moment when there isn't. Ultimately, what are creating your emotional reactions are your unconscious perceptions. It is the way you're perceiving your reality at any given moment. Okay. The key is, however, to become more conscious of your unconscious perceptions, because until you do, they will continue to control the way you view the world. Now, this can also occur in a positive way. For example, you know, positive emotions are still being triggered. You can be triggered positively and negatively. And it's a very human thing to be triggered. We're all going to be triggered. It doesn't matter how enlightened you become. The human aspect of yourself is always going to be triggered, sometimes by what's happening in the outer world. Another way we can trigger ourselves is by thinking negative thoughts. We've been blessed with this huge frontal lobe at the front of our brains, but the downside to that is when you live in a society that conditions you as such, obviously we have the ability to overthink our problems. And the moment we have one misaligned thought and believe in that thought, we're triggered again and we're living out of alignment with who we truly are. So understanding that ultimately the cause of all emotional reaction that you feel is your perception of yourself in relation to what is happening in the outer world. Now, feelings are a little different. There is a difference between emotions and feelings, okay? Emotions are triggered by a perception, whether it's a perception of yourself or the outer world. A feeling is an intuitive knowing that is independent of what happens. Sometimes intuition may come as a result of you observing what happens, but really intuition comes from within. It doesn't come from your reaction to without. So also understanding the difference between emotion and feeling is also something that can create a lot more immense emotional health and well-being throughout our collective consciousness. And this is something that also needs to be addressed. What about memories? Like I said before, any traumatic experience you've had, the brain takes a snapshot. So we all know, or we all remember where we were during 9/11, for example, because that collectively was just such a hugely traumatic experience for many of us. We all felt that emotion, and we just remember it. And in the same way, any event that you've ever experienced that really shook you, you remembered it because you remember the way it made you feel. Okay, you remember the way that it made you feel. So it's important to really rid yourself of these emotional memories as well, because they do cloud your perception of the here and now. And it's really possible to misperceive the here and now through the emotional residue of your past experiences. And really, that's what it means to become free of the old self, to become free of the mental and emotional conditioning of the past, so that you can be reborn in the here and now. Now, this is a lot of deep spiritual stuff here, very esoteric kind of stuff, but it's all true. And this is what my experiences with hypochondria taught me, because I really struggled with it for years. I kept believing I was going to die. And the only way out of it was to go through it. That was it. That was the only way out of the emotion. And it was the same emotion reliving itself over and over and over and over again. And why did it keep coming back? Because I'd not yet learned the lesson. So what was the lesson? I had to learn how to bring presence into my emotions. Okay. So I'm going to take you through a little technique now that I've learned over the years. Let's just imagine you're triggered into anxiety, for example. In real time, there's not usually an opportunity for where you can just sit, and process the emotion for 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes it'll happen while you're in a busy office environment or something like that. But as soon as you're able, just sit down. Okay, don't try and fight off the emotion, because if you're trying to fight something, you're in resistance, and resistance only makes it worse. It's really important to be able to just sit with the emotion, right? So here's a little technique that I've learned over the years. Whenever you're feeling anxious, the first thing to do is just to take a couple of deep breaths. So, okay, because breathing will just slow everything down for you. Okay, so just take a couple of deep breaths at first. Then what I want you to do, your hands are on your knees here, right? Just feel the energy inside of your hands without touching them. So your hands are here. Just put your awareness on the feeling inside of your hands, right? and you'll feel a slight little tingle within your hands, in your fingers, and your palms, especially in the very center here, because these are two energetic vortexes in your hands. But just feel the energy in your hands while simultaneously just accepting the moment as it is. To accept the present moment means to accept what the present moment contains. And if you're feeling anxious, then that emotion is part of what the present moment contains. And if you're in resistance to the emotion, you're also in resistance to the present moment. So it's really important to just learn how to accept that, yes, I feel this way right now. Okay. And it is what it is. I feel this way. Life is trying to teach me something through this emotion. So if you can really embrace that moment, embrace that knowing that through this emotional state, life is trying to show me something really important. So what you do is you learn how to just sit and be with the emotion, okay? And that means just bringing your presence into it, to truly just let it be and to just feel the emotion. It's not going to kill you. It never will. The only thing it's going to kill is an aspect of the old self. That's it. And that's why the ego fears you bringing your presence into the emotion, because it knows that a part of it is going to die. But if you've identified with that emotion for 20, 30 years, of course it's going to feel like death, because you believe it's an aspect of yourself, but it's not. You're not the emotion. You're the you're the being beneath it. We'll get into that a little later. So just learning how to be with the emotion and to just feel it, let it be, don't resist it. Because, like I said, emotions are energy in motion. Okay. Thus, if you're in acceptance of the emotion and you're just letting it be without labeling the emotion, without thinking about it, just feeling it, no mental commentary on it at all, just feel it, let it just run through you. Okay. What will happen is that that energy will literally run through you. It will literally just move through you. And then once you've actually done it, like successfully, what will happen is you'll learn a couple of things. One, that no emotional state can really kill you. Okay. And that two, you'll also come to realize the unconscious perception that created the emotion in the first place. And then once you realize that the perception was completely false, you can just let it go. Because how can you continue to buy into something that you know is not true? The moment you see that it isn't true, you've already released it. It's gone. There's a limiting belief gone out of your perception. Woohoo! Small victory for you. You've just leveled up. Congratulations. That's what it's all about. That's what it takes to be a real man. A real man is somebody who takes responsibility for the way he feels on a daily basis, and he embraces it. He embraces that emotionality. He doesn't run away. He doesn't, run to booze or drugs or intoxicants. He just faces it full on. That's it. And this is something that we need to change, because we're taught in society that real men don't feel. Real men aren't meant to feel fear. Real men should be courageous. Yes, being courageous is something everybody should be. But the thing about courage is, to be courageous doesn't mean to feel no fear. It means to actually move forward regardless of how you feel. And that's something that we need to learn how to do, how to train the men of this world, especially. We need to train them to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, because once you're in touch with the very depths of your own being, which emotional, training will put you in touch with, without a doubt. Once you do that, you'll realize that nothing really can destroy you. Nothing can touch you once you're really in tune with that stillness beneath all of those emotional states that you experience. The mind and your emotions, it's all in flux. They're constantly changing. Okay. They change as even more than the weather does in the UK. And that's saying something, trust me. The depths of your own being, that presence that allows everything to be, is the only thing substantial within you. It is the space that allows the emotions and the thoughts to come. It is the consciousness itself. And once you identify solely with that, all of the emotion you feel and all of the thoughts that you have will just be like ripples on the surface of your being. They won't really, they'll no longer influence your decision making, and you'll be able to just face them head on without any fear. This is the very basis of mindfulness and Zen. Zen really is that. How I mean, it's really hard to, well, it's impossible to describe what Zen is using concepts, because it is your natural state basically. It is beyond thoughts. It is non-conceptual. So I won't waste my time trying to explain what it is. You must experience it for yourself by mastering the here and now. And you do that by wiping your windows of perception clean and embracing life as it is without resistance. Okay. So, what are the benefits of actually consciously managing your state of being and actually managing your emotional state and integrating a lot of those fear based emotional memories? There are so many benefits, trust me. There is a well proven link between our physical, mental, and emotional health. The mind body connection is very real. It is a scientific fact that elevated emotions such as joy, compassion, appreciation, gratitude, like these positive kind of emotions that we can feel, actually restore and repair the physical body. There is a lot of self healing mechanisms built within the body that are triggered by positive emotion. Okay, so learning how to train yourself emotionally in a positive way can actually also restore and repair your body. I get into the details in that right now. This is all epigenetics, by the way. I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lipton and his works. Read The Biology of Belief. It's a fantastic book. But anyway, once you change your perception of yourself for the better by ridding yourself of all these limiting beliefs that society's inflicted upon you, literally since you've come out the womb, you actually change your gene expression. What is your gene expression? Now, genes are protein producing machines, okay? And what are proteins? Proteins are responsible for the structure and the function of your physical body. Basically, they're the building blocks of your body, okay? However, if you're at the mercy of limiting beliefs and of course those negative emotions that come with them all the time, what's going to happen is, because the body is constantly in survival mode, there's not enough energy, not sufficient energy to create genes of the quality that are going to restore and to repair your body. And this is how stress creates disease. This is how stress breaks the body down. Because if you're living in survival, you've got no energy to rebuild yourself. Your organs rebuild themselves every few years. Your genes are constantly replacing themselves. But if you're living via stress all the time, then the rebuilding process is going to be greatly affected. However, the opposite is also true. If you're not living in survival, if you're living in peace, if you're living in your integrity, if you're feeling positive emotion more than you feel negative emotion on a daily basis, then what's going to happen is the proteins, sorry, that are produced by your genes, while you're in those positive emotional states, are actually going to be of a really robust quality. They're going to be strong enough to restore and to repair your physical body. And that's, the simple fact that stress is a killer. It is, because the body can't maintain itself if you're living in survival all the time. It's just not possible. And that's why stress creates disease. And again, it all comes down to stress management, learning how to manage your emotional state consciously. And I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that we should always feel positive. Of course not. We're human beings. We're going to be triggered. We're going to feel anxious. We're going to get angry at some of the fucking bullshit we see in this world today. That's fine. But lower the amount of time that you're triggered. When you're triggered, feel it, yeah, and then just shift back as quick as you can. Don't dwell on, what somebody did to you for 2, 3, 4 weeks, because it doesn't solve any problems. It doesn't solve anything. Emotional management and learning how to manage your emotional state consciously, then that's what it is really key to living a life full of joy, longevity, and health. This is unfortunately something that many people just don't know. Most people in my life, for example, they haven't got a clue what I'm saying when I'm doing this video. The only people who really know this stuff are the spiritual people. And I'm actually going to feature in a documentary soon about how more and more health coaches and work coaches and spiritual mentors are coming online because most people simply can't get help, via the government. So I'm actually going to feature in that documentary really soon. It'll be out, I believe, early next year. So it should be really good. So ultimately, I've ranted and raved on many subjects in this video. I hope that it shed a little light on some of the topics that you may be struggling with at the moment. And I do empathize and sympathize with certain people, especially those who don't really have anyone they can go to for emotional support, emotional comfort, etc. I really wish I could help everybody, but I can't. I'm just one person. Unfortunately, one person can't save the world. We have to come together. We have to come together. We have to rally and we have to do something because people need more emotional and mental support nowadays. Also, I believe the reason why most people aren't talking about this is because they're distracted. They're distracted by what's going on YouTube. 95% of the stuff on YouTube, in my opinion, is complete garbage. Okay. May sound contradictory because I'm on YouTube. Hopefully, I'm not in that 95% category. But it's complete garbage. It's just a waste of time. It's just a complete distraction. Like, why would I want to see Mr. Beast bury himself underground? Like, what does that do to my life? What quality does that add to my life? This is why most people are just not even asked. They're not even bothered about managing their emotional state because they're just suppressing it by keeping themselves on the phone all day, keeping themselves distracted by what's on YouTube, keeping themselves distracted by what Elon Musk is doing on Twitter or whatever. There's just so many distractions out there that are keeping your focus on the external world. And then one day, when all of these suppressed emotions just hit you, you're going to be like, holy shit, what the fuck? When a big volcano erupts from within you, you need to do something about it. We need to do something about this. Enough is enough. We need to come together. And very soon, I'm going to be developing courses and I'm going to be building a community which is really focused on men's emotional and mental health because it's required. I feel as if somebody who has my degree of emotional intelligence should actually be doing more about this. And, I really do feel passionate about this. I'm going to do something about it, definitely, because we need support. Men need support. Women do too. Other people do. Everybody does. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just saying I'm here just for the men, but men especially. We need support. And the only way we're going to get it is if we stick together because really the government's let us down. The medical, I don't want to say the medical, organizations have completely let us down because the reason why most people can't get help that they need is because they're just so overwhelmed. So really, it's not even their fault. And there's a lot of great therapists out there, psychologists out there that are doing an immense job. So, I appreciate what they're doing, but unfortunately, they're just one person as well. They can't really help everybody, unfortunately. In a nutshell, okay, this entire message, this entire video is let us learn how to empower ourselves from a young age so that we don't need to rely on other people to help us all the time. Yes, it's fine to need a shoulder to cry on at times. We're human beings, we're social creatures, we're meant to connect with each other, especially emotionally. We're meant to hug each other, hold each other's hands, etc. Brotherhood, sisterhood, friendships, etc. That's all well and good. But there are times in life when none of that is available and we just need to rely on ourselves as well. And that's what really ultimately decides what kind of life you have. Are you going to keep distracting yourself by watching bullshit on YouTube? Or are you actually going to manage your emotional state consciously and create the life that you prefer? The choice is yours, my friends. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Please share this video with anybody you feel who is suffering from mental, emotional fatigue or isolation. because I am there with you. I am there for you. And by all means, feel free to contact me on social media if you're struggling with anything at the moment. I'll try and be there for as many people as I can, but if I don't respond, it's probably because I just have too many people already messaging me. But soon, if you stay tuned to my website, I'm going to be creating courses and a community, hopefully, whereby I can create safe space for men and women and whoever else wants to join to really embrace their emotions, come together, learn together about what it means to be emotionally intelligent. And then that one candle that is lit by that flame can go and light another thousand candles. And together we can spread more emotional intelligence and mastery around the world. And that'll create more of a cohesive society, which is less influenced by the bullshit that we see online and in, social media as a whole. So yeah, I'm out. Take care. I really hope that you take heed of this message because our future depends on it.